exactly. So every vowel, you know, you could use this, and I love explaining like this. When people say, you got to keep your soft palate lifted. No. Every vowel, in every note and every vowel, 5 things happen. Throat, tongue, palate, mouth. What did I miss? Throat, tongue, palate, mouth, lips. Those 5 things determine what goes on. Whether it's open here, whether the palate's up or down, whether the tongue is humped or flat. So that's what determines all that. So the minute you start going, I'm going to keep an open throat on everything I say, and I'm going to keep my palate lifted, oh, you're fucked. Because it doesn't work like that. They need to do their, you know, this is why the Italians would say, I'm not Italian, I am Italian, but I don't know how to speak it, but the saying of speak like you, sing like you speak, parlay something, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. And that's what they meant by that. It's like, don't go fucking your shit up. You got the natural, here it is. And the guy that really pioneered all this shit was a lot of it, and made it really how to get each vowel, you know, to where it's the least resonant, to where it's the most resonant, was Burton Coffin. That guy was brilliant, and he's overlooked. But his vowel chart
I don't think he's overlooked, but I have a few of his books, and I have his vowel charts, and they're complicated. They're really hard to understand. I think they are.
Totally, because, same thing with me. So I got the book after, because my coach took with Dan Merrick, who made all those exercises with Berton Coffin, with the vowel resonator and all that, the thing from Radio Shack. Mm-hmm. They were the ones that did it together. And my coach, I went to Mannes College. That's where he studied with Dan Merrick, who was a sick tenor, and then he studied with Pola and Raimondi in Italy. And so I got one of the books with the vowel chart. The vowel chart's right there. And, you know, see it sitting on the thing?
Yeah.
And I remember opening it up on one of our lessons a long time ago and going, what the fuck is this? And he was like, he started laughing, and he's like, he goes, everything we're doing, I've already explained to you, so this is how it works. And he explains how it works. It's actually really simple, because the exercises that he taught me show how it works. So because I had someone teach me the vowel chart. You're trying to learn that shit on your own? Good fucking work.
Exactly. So, like, I understand vowel modification pretty well, but also what happens is when I listen to my students and I hear them singing a scale or something, I listen very, very closely and hear how the vowel is slightly shading differently. Like sort of in a chromatic way, right? Every semitone, there's a little bit of a shift in the vowel. And I'm like, okay, see where you are here? This is what your vowel is right here. Now it's gone from such and such to such and such. Do you hear that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I do hear that now. Now, now you've got a couple notes up. Oh, now you hear how your vowel's here, right here. And that's, to me, it's a little bit more intuitive, I think, than trying to sit there and read a chart. Because I think when you're reading a chart, it becomes very mechanical. And I don't think I know that you can move the chart around depending on where your passagia are located and what your voice type is.
Frozen.
Yeah. So I know it's a movable chart, and you can move it up according to your voice type and where your passagia locations are and whatever. But at the same time, I feel like because anatomically we're all slightly different, so even one dramatic soprano is not going to be the same as the next dramatic soprano when it comes to sort of the morphological, the structural aspects of her voice and how she articulates. We all have unique ways of articulating depending on the internal dimensions of our instruments. Right. And so there are some slight differences. And so when you start saying chord chart, vowel modification chart, I feel like it puts people in boxes sometimes unnecessarily. And for me, because when we're going from one vowel to a next, there are always these in-between vowels, these transitional vowel sounds where it's kind of in between. It's not an ah, but it's not an It's something in between that we can't identify because we don't have a vowel like that in our language, and there's no IPA symbol for it. And you know what I mean? So you have to embrace that flexible transition between them. You're not just abruptly going from to or whatever it might be for your modification.
Right. Well, this is the whole thing about his system that's cool. Number one, because it's broken up into registers. So it's a strengthening, it's basically a voice building thing. So meaning, I do an exercise, and if I'm in chest and strobe bass, I don't go past, in my chest voice, a B3. It does it, and if you look at the vowel chart, you see how it goes, or B flat 3 even. You'll see how the vowel chart goes up for me, and it goes right there, and it'll starts a red line after that. You'll see that little red line, and you go, okay, that's it for that. Don't take that exercise higher. That stops. So now I just did my biceps. Okay, next exercises start on this vowel, for this register, start on this vowel, and as you go up, the vowel widens until, I'm redlining again. That's the end. That's the end of it. You take it any further, that's when stress starts to happen. So that's why, like, the whole bridging high or bridging low, that's really what that does is it goes like this to the voice. The voice goes, where do you want me? You're mixing my registration up now. If I'm just voice building, I'm not singing, I'm voice building, and I'm building this strength, in, like you said, I want to build the strength of my TA, or however you want to look at it. It's like, don't go past what that, because he worked with so many singers to go, oh, look at this, and did that little thing with the vowel, look for one, I can't find one, but how they sang into this little piece, and when it resonated, perfect, and then they start changing the vowel, works good, and then, there's no more we can get out of that sound. That's it. It caps. That's the end. So you can't, like, when I tell my students, like, we're doing a simple 5-tone scale on these certain vowels that we use, when we get to F sharp, if it's a guy, and he'll be like, okay, so let's go higher. No, that's it. That's the exercise. Now we're going to go to mixed voice.
You don't use the organ sound, though, do you?
That's the only one I have.
Oh, real? Are you kidding me?
Well, I can open
that would
up
drive me insane. I hate that sound.
You don't like that? Yeah, that's what I use.
That's funny.
But so
you don't use your guitar?
Sometimes. If the student's a real good guitar player, I have one kid from Australia, and like he gives me lessons. Sometimes after the lesson, he'll give me like a cool jazz lesson, how to do subs, because I never learned that as a guitar player. I was a rock guy, so he'll teach me different things, which is really cool. But yeah, then you go to the next register, and we work on that register with the vowels work the exact same way. They start here, and then they go like this, and then they get too far, so on about a high C, C sharp, mixed voice ends. And now begins what we call vowel register, what other people would call, reinforced false rock stuff.
You kind of.
In each,
there was a little bit of a glitch.
Oh.
There was a glitch in what you were saying. So you get to C5 and.
Yeah, C sharp, and that's the end of mixed voice. Any more pressure after that, you're going to cause redlining. So then you start your next register, which is they call it vowel register, and that's kind of what you would call voce finta, or whatever you want to call it, like pharyngeal voice, maybe reinforced falsetto. It's an extension of sort of like mixed voice, but not really. It's just how you can get those high rock notes, and how most of those, if you ever did get a guy, a tenor or whatever, that sang up on high Ds and stuff, that's what they're using. And it's got a lot of squealo to it. It's got a ton of squealo on it. And so that's that, and then there's falsetto, and then there's also like a little super falsetto with bounces above that, and then there's whistle voice, if you can get to whistle. But it's strengthening. The cool thing about the way, the pedagogy that I was taught, is that it strengthens each register within itself, which I thought was really cool. There's no mixing of the registers. There's none of this. None of that where you're just kind of you're mixing up the registers. It's like, no, boom, this goes here, boom, this goes here. And then when you know the principles, then if you do a long scale like the if you do something like that, you can show how you go, like what he did on the scale. You show how you can go through the passaggio, you got to cover. So Pavarotti says you got to cover on the F, on the 5. If you're a good tenor, that's what you do. And and it's true, that's what you do. And that gets so strong, what sounds like belting when he sings Don't Stop Believin' is not belting. It's singing. It's just because it's strong. And that's the difference. Because these other guys just keep opening their mouths wider and wider, thinking that their belting is going to be, hey, hey, hey. It's like, go ahead, do that for a week straight on a gig and see what happens. It's going to go none nice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why I really love the pedagogy, because there was actually no bullshit involved. It was just like, no, that's what you do. Every time I tried to ask a question, you'd be like, No, I'm not going to humor you in answering that. And he knows a lot about the voice, like about the muscles and all that. But he won't even get into it. He's like, it's not going to help you. What's going to help you is, are you singing? Are you sure you're singing? And then he makes me go, I'll say, a lot of times, I have a problem with my upper voice, right? So he'll go, sing, and he'll always say, sing, fuck. That's all we sing on top notes, fuck. And I'll go and do that. He goes, you're saying fuck. I go, I am not. I'm saying, fuck. No, listen back. And I'll record myself, listen back. He's fucking right. I don't even know that I'm going to, excuse my language, but I don't even know that I'm going to but it is.
Because I think we sing intuitively for the most part. We just kind of we sing whatever helps us to get that coordination or whatever without giving much thought really to the vowel, which is why I think there is a growing trend in vocal pedagogy to start teaching this idea of vowel modification. Oh.
Shit.
I lost you. Am I back yet?
Now you're back.
All right.
What'd you say?
Yeah, so I think that there's a growing trend in vocal pedagogy to start teaching this concept of vowel modification, because I think people are starting to understand, and I think the fact that there is a lot of information about their vocal science, especially on things like formants, there's an understanding now that, when we tune our vowels appropriately for the pitch and register, the vocal instrument operates much more efficiently. And I think people are starting to realize that. Now, we don't all teach it in the same way, this vowel modification idea, but at least I think teachers are embracing that, because they're realizing that really when you modify your vowels, you are allowing your instrument not only to operate more efficiently, but to operate more freely.
Right.
And that's the idea behind vowel modification. It's sort of a natural, intuitive thing for most of us, but when we really start tweaking the vowel, it does free us up quite a bit.
Yeah, but up until that time when all these kids started writing this stuff down, but not knowing how to do it. And that is where pedagogy got screwed. People stopped listening to their ear. They stopped listening to their ear and started listening to raise the soft palate, lower the larynx, and say, ugh. No, that's not what these guys were doing. They were going, what vowel are you singing? It's like when I try to go through an aria, I have to get all my vowels perfect. I don't get through Cameo Ben, the first phrase. It takes about a half hour with my coach. I said, no, it's not right. What do you mean it's not right? And then we do it, and we do it, and we do it, and that goes, he goes, this is how I learned it.
He's talking about the vowel. He talks about the vowel. He talks about the vowel space, that shape, that cavity. And if that is not shaped appropriately for the pitch and the register, you're not going to get the vowel that you want.
Right, you just sing the vowel you want, just like you would speak it. If you say E, you say E. You don't say E.
Right, but, I don't think you're getting what I'm saying though, but yes, you get it in your head, and you're speaking it, but how do you speak that physiologically? You only get that vowel by having the physiological mechanism shaping itself. That's what he's saying. He's saying that that's the cause. The cause is the physiological condition, all the conditions being met, all the conditions being right, to be able to create that vowel that you're hearing in your head, that you're wanting to create. So when I say E, right, I say E, the only reason why that E is coming out the way it is because my instrument has shaped itself appropriately to make that sound.
But when you speak it, you're not thinking, I'm raising my soft palate, I'm lowering my larynx, and I'm saying E. I'm opening my throat. No, you're just saying and listening for E, making sure it's not I or or E. You're saying E. And that is what people are missing.
That's really hard to train.
They're trying to be so technical about what they're doing, they're forgetting to just listen to the vowel.
That's really hard to train in some singers in your frozen.
I lost you again. So, in other words, if you're having someone sing an E vowel, like, past their chest voice, say, right? In the passaggio or something, do you make them do, say, eh? Do you make them go, say, E through eh, or I, go to I instead?
Well, so if we find what works for them. I watched one of your recent videos where indeed the vowel does actually change. So the same thing I heard another singer demonstrating, it goes to eh, but in actuality it was actually modifying to I. And the only reason why it modifies to I is because the vowel becomes phonologically less tense as we move higher in the scale. And so if we speak the integrity of the vowel, you know, as Miller talks about, I know apparently you don't like Miller either, but if the tongue always speaks the integrity of the vowel, the tongue is always saying E, then if we do lower the jaw a little bit more, which does happen if you look at Pavarotti, if you look at Domingo, if you look at all these guys, when we lower the jaw, the tongue lowers with it. And that creates more of a phonologically less tense vowel. You now have I. And if you lower the jaw a little further, you now have E. And so it does go through those modifications.
If you're staying in one register. But if you learn to strengthen the register, like I talked in the video real quick, if you learn to strengthen the register that's not strong, because you've got your chest voice, and then you've got your falsetto, and the one in the middle, the two in the middle are really weak, then you have to go, but if you strengthen, and learn what that is, which is really weak in mostly everybody, because they never learn it, because they're always taught to go, instead of, which is E, not A. So, but that's only because now that register is strong. But I used to sing E's with an open mouth. But now I parla, whatever we said it was called, speak like I sing for real. Because I don't have to I can just go right to this.
Come si parla.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah. So yeah, now I can actually go to a new register that's just as strong. And so you think that I'm staying in this chest voice, and no, I'm a mixed voice.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah, and I think that definitely the vowel that we choose can actually interfere with registration as well, and not make it as strong or as easy to sort of kind of smoothly, we'll say, blend the registers, which is really the ultimate goal, is to be able to not stay in one register, but to blend them.
Right, as you're singing, you're going to be going in and out of all these different registers. Yeah, I believe, that's definitely it, but I would believe in strengthening them. That's the one thing that Reed would say, strengthen the register. He only talked about 2 registers. He talked about falsetto and chest voice. There's 2 or 3 other registers in there.
Yeah.
That need to be strengthened.
And my teacher used to teach me that there was a middle register for females. Not to mention there's, flageolet, the whistle, and
chest, middle, mixed. For females, it's chest, middle, mixed, vowel register, head. For guys, we call it upper, and we chest, upper, mixed, vowel register, falsetto. We don't have a head voice. You have the head voice. That's the way, when I look at, when you look at the old things, the old, that's the way they actually looked at it. They didn't look at it like, oh, you just have chest and falsetto. Because then that's why you're taking E and making it, like some people are taking E and go, yeah, when you sing high, just sing for E, and it works. And it's like, yeah, but that's just staying in one register, and then you're going to sing flat. It's going to always be flat. It's never going to have color. So when you learn to tell, oh, what's the other register in there? It's like, holy shit. And that's where the work comes in, and that's where most people don't want to work at it.
Well, I think, too, this whole 2-register model creates this sort of segregated scale a little bit. It's compartmentalized scale. And then singers don't make graduated adjustments on every single note in the scale. And, yeah, they do run. That's why they run into register breaks. That's why they run into, the inability to move freely between different registers because they are training it in one particular coordination rather than allowing the instrument to sort of adjust itself and coordinate with every single semitone, every single note in the scale. And that's the point that they have to get to. But you're right, it is a lot of work.
Oh, wait, so that's why. This is where it's kind of cool. So I can show you a little bit about this really quick, how this actually works. You just answered our question. So the reason, okay, so let me find where I can read it. Let's take somewhere over here. So this is how this thing works. If you want to sing, and I'm not going to find the notes, but if you're here, right, and you want to sing this E vowel, this note on an E vowel, it's going to be, I just follow this over, and it's in vowel register. But if I turn it to an E vowel, it's mixed voice. And if it's so each of them change, depending on the vowel you sing, determines the register you're in. So if I'm here and I say upper, right? But if I say oh, mixed voice. If I say ooh, that's even different than that's vowel register. So there's these little heightened, all these registers are within themselves. They're all like they all go into each other. So and that's how you can look at that. So you can go, hey, I want to sing, and you find out which ones are safe. Yellow is and then red starts to get to unsafe. So you start to see, well, if I sing an E vowel here, I'm in this. If I sing an E vowel there, if I sing an A vowel there, it's this. And that is really cool about that, because then it takes the right resonance for each vowel.
Well, see, that's just it, resonance, because Coffin was expert in formants, and he understood that exactly that we have a first formant location, and the register is largely determined by which vowel we're singing because of its first formant location. So yes, certain vowels turn over earlier, and they will go into a different register earlier than other vowels, and so that's why if we choose our vowels carefully, then we can either stay in that register or move into another register on the same note.
Right. You have choices, but they have to be strong. Sometimes people don't have a mixed voice. I mean, how many students you get that just don't have mixed voice? So it takes a while to get them to go, hey man, it feels a little collected, feels a little tight in the beginning, and it's going to start to open up, but it's going to take a few months to get that to open up on you.
Yeah. I do have to go.
Okay.
But thank you so much for the chat. It's been good.
Yeah. That was fun.
All right.
Let's definitely